So I'd like to invite the first speaker, Christopher, to come up. I will say that although you are both gentlemen, I do want a good, clean debate with no low blows, and we will need to be very strict for time. Each speaker will speak for 12 minutes, and then we'll rebut each other for a further 5 minutes, and we will then have a short head-to-head debate. I will warn you when there's about a minute to go for each talk, and if you exceed your time, then I will use my Britain's Got Talent buzzer noise on my phone. I recommend it to all of you. So, Christopher, away you go. Thank you.
Melanie, thank you very much. Good morning to you all, and this is the parting present from the college for this debate as I step down as trustee. Today we're going to talk about whether we should offer suitable patients same-day bilateral cataract surgery. So, declaration of interest, I have been a proponent of safe, informed, immediately sequential bilateral cataract surgery for some 20 years, and I have an active research program, and I have published extensively on the topic, including a safe 3-step protocol. I'm not a member of the International Society of Bilateral Cataract Surgeons. This is still a taboo subject. Same-day bilateral cataract surgery is taboo in many countries, including the United Kingdom. So recently I visited Vietnam, and I was told it is actually illegal to do this in Vietnam. So why? Why is the question? The reason is because of fear of bilateral blindness, fear of causing bilateral blindness. It's a very deep fear. It's mostly irrational when you look at the evidence, but this has been inculcated in us from an early age, and it can be transferred from healthcare professionals to other healthcare professionals, and also to patients, so we can scare our patients so they don't get the best possible care that they may wish to have. Now, look at the other examples of bilateral cataract, bilateral eye surgery, laser refractive surgery, and all that on the bottom left. They are all capable of giving rise to blindness, and yet we do them quite happily. So why is that? So we have firstly to define what suitable means. Well, it means acceptable or right for someone or something, or being right or correct for a particular situation or person. Therefore, I'm very glad that I've been given the motion for the motion, because immediately, by definition, you should all have voted yes. Let's go to a historical note. We've always been taught to operate on one eye at a time for cataract surgery, apart from specific indications such as cases requiring a general anaesthetic, especially a high-risk GA, so they don't have to go through a second one. And also cases for which the vision potential is unknown in either eye. However, the climate is changing, literally. Look at NICE guidance on adult cataract surgery. 1.6.3, consider bilateral simultaneous cataract surgery for people who are at low risk of ocular complications during and after surgery. 1.6.4, discuss the potential risks and benefits of bilateral simultaneous cataract surgery with people, meaning patients and their family, which should include all that. Now we're going to go through all those in detail, bit by bit. Let's have a look at the advantages to patients and carers. 1 referral, 1 preoperative clinic appointment, 1 period on the waiting list, 1 theatre episode with very little time added because your next patient or your next eye is already on the table. You learn from the first eye, so when you operate on the second eye, the idiosyncrasies of the first eye will be replicated in the second eye. 1 GA, if a GA is required. 1 lot of post-operative recovery. 1 lot of waiting for refractive stability, which could be up to 6 weeks. No period of binocular imbalance or anisometropia. 1 visit to the optometrist and 1 new pair of glasses. What are the disadvantages? So I summarise that in one slide, but we will expand on this. We are taking a risk with both eyes at the same sitting. So principally, we are worried about bilateral endophthalmitis, or any endophthalmitis, bilateral cystoid macular edema, and bilateral refractory surprise. And of course, they will be more uncomfortable during the recovery period, because both eyes are slightly uncomfortable. In order to offer bilateral cataract surgery at the same sitting, there are prerequisites. Obviously, the patient needs to have bilateral cataracts, which are visually significant. You need to have informed consent, you need to have reliable biometry, surgeon track record, team track record, hospital track record, day one follow-up either by phone or in person, and a hospital hotline if anything should not be right. So let me describe to you the three-step protocol to reduce risk. Here are the 3 steps. Exclusion of high-risk eyes. Generally speaking, you can consider 50% of eyes, up to 50% are routine, and the other are higher and higher risks. Number 2, the option not to proceed with the second eye if the first has not gone swimmingly. Number 3, intricate maneuvers to reduce the risk of bilateral infection or cross-contamination. So the high-risk eyes you can see here, we don't have time to go through everything, but when they are high risk with risk of infection, corneal decompensation, lenticular abnormalities, long and short eyes, etc. And here are some examples. Pseudoexfoliation on top right, for example, small pupil, hard cataract, white cataract, etc. So these, in my practice, would be excluded. Option not to proceed with the second eye, this is step 3. We know that if the operation is long or if it's complicated, then the risk of retinal detachment, endophthalmitis, and cystoid macular edema are up 10 to 100-fold. So you have the option of not going ahead with the second eye. Therefore, it is not simultaneous. It's one after the other, and the decision is not ballistic. You have the option of changing your mind after the first operation. So, reducing the risk, this is number 3. We treat them as completely separate operations, regloving, regowning, new trolleys of instruments, and anything which goes into the eye will have a different batch number or will have come from different manufacturers. Also, we hold back one pack, phaco pack, from the previous week for one of the 2 eyes. So we know already that that batch is of proven sterility, having gone through cohorts of real patients. Of course, you need to use cefuroxime to reduce the risk of infection. Let's have a look at the catastrophic complications. Expulsive hemorrhage, that's a thing of the past now, really, mostly, because of self-sealing, small incision surgery. We'll look at infection, we'll look at non-resolving CMO, and we'll look at the concept of conditional probability as well. Let's look at the final point right now. The 2 eyes are not independent, so if one sort of complication happens to one eye, it is more likely to happen to the other eye as well. Let's take, for instance, endophthalmitis. Generally speaking, statistically, we quote 1 in 1,000 eyes would develop endophthalmitis. We don't really know whether the risk of bilateral endophthalmitis is 1 in 1 million or 1 in 2,000, because the 2 eyes are related. However, we do know from the published literature that it is exceedingly rare. In fact, no bilateral endophthalmitis occurred in 95,000 eyes collected in Arshinov's series. And also, no bilateral endophthalmitis has ever been reported or heard of when a safe protocol has been followed. Bilateral CMO. The majority of cases are self-limiting, whether treated or untreated. I think we can recommend that there should be a preoperative macular OCT to detect mild cases of epiretinal membrane, because these cases are prone to developing CMO. So avoid them, and avoid patients with diabetic retinopathy or with a past history of vein occlusion. And there is also a point of regular use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory eye drops postoperatively, which also helps with reducing capsular opacification. So what is my surgical practice once a patient has chosen to go with immediately sequential? For the first eye, it's topical and intracameral anesthesia. Clear temporal corneal wound, intracameral catarrh, and clear shield, cartella shield, day and night for the first week, recognizing the vulnerability of a clear temporal wound. For the second eye, they're already on the table, they might feel the second eye a little bit more, so give them a little bit more anesthetic, subtenons anesthesia, a scleral tunnel for added safety, and then cefuroxime, etc. On the scleral tunnel flap, the conjunctival flap, and then pad it till the following day for protection. Here you see a scleral tunnel, and that's why it's much safer underneath the upper lid and three-step incision, and covered by conjunctiva as well. And patients are so happy for those who want it and get it. And you can see the patient is happy and the surgeon has a halo. So let me conclude. Based on nice guidance, based on informed consent, reference to Montgomery, GMC advised, we have to discuss all alternatives, and immediately sequential bilateral cataract surgery
1 minute.
Is an alternative, and it is exceedingly safe for suitable patients. Note, suitable. Autonomy, one of the 4 pillars of medical ethics, is really important. So the patient should have a choice. We should not deny them that choice. The surgeon should have a choice. Those who do not believe in this or do not want to participate in it should be free not to. However, they should not deprive patients of this choice. So I put it to you that for all suitable patients, immediately sequential bilateral cataract surgery should be considered and offered, even if you, the voter, do not believe in it or can offer it. Thank you.
Christopher, thank you very much. So I'd now like to ask Professor Stephen Vernon to come and to rebut the proposal.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That was an exceedingly good proposal for what a lot of people have thought about over many years. My job today is not to act on behalf of the Royal College of Ophthalmologists, which I've done for the last 3 years, but to act on behalf of myself, really. So what I'm going to present to you is a personal view on why I do not believe that all suitable patients should be offered same-day bilateral cataract surgery. As Chris says, this is not a new debate. It's been around for a long time, and Chris wrote a paper on it, well, actually a prospective paper, in the video 18 years ago. And of course, in those days, the statement in the paper was that the surgery is usually carried out into general anaesthesia, but may very occasionally be done under subtenons or topical. Now, it seems, from what we've heard, that in fact, it's not very occasional, it's the routine to do it. And I was thinking that one of the risks that I have in standing up here, and many of you in the audience, and perhaps Chris as well, would be thinking that me standing up here, talking to you, well, you're going to think of this character. Perhaps I'm just an old dinosaur coming to the end of my career. But I don't think I've got a reputation for being a dinosaur, and if you read down the list of some of the things that I've been involved in over the many years I've been an ophthalmologist, I hope I'm not a dinosaur. So let's get rid of the dinosaur thoughts, and rather, one of the advantages of being around a long time is that you hopefully begin to think like this character here, with just a bit of care and wisdom. So let's just look to see how common is this bilateral simultaneous cataract surgery. If it's been around for 20 years, you'd think it would have been taken up on at least many suitable patients, and I would agree that there are some patients who are suitable, but not all patients, or not even anywhere near the number of patients are suitable for bilateral cataract surgery as Chris thinks they are. So how many people in the NOD study that was published last year, who had both eyes done in a year, had bilateral surgery? Less than 1%. And even in East Sussex, where Chris comes from, even if they did all of those, which they didn't, then it would only mean that only 12% of the cataracts done in the East Sussex Hospital in Brighton were done as bilateral surgery, despite one of the proponents of the UK there. So actually, there must be quite a lot of people thinking in the way that Yoda does about this, rather than leaping in and doing it. And as Yoda would say, publications on ISBCS, there have been many. And most of them are from really serious protagonists, although there are some alternative arguments in the literature as well. But actually I don't think they make the main point why we shouldn't do this, particularly in the UK. And that's what I'd like to do. And if you look at the results of surgery, and there's a good paper in ophthalmology here from 2 years ago, you see that there's no real difference in outcome, providing your outcome is best corrected visual acuity. I'm going to come back to that. I agree endophthalmitis is not a major reason not to do this, because otherwise we wouldn't do it on anybody, and we do it on some patients. But particularly if a GA is required and it's a risk, then it's perfectly acceptable. I would make the risk about 1 in 3 million from my calculations, which means it's going to happen sometime. And I have seen a bilateral endophthalmitis, not from cataract surgery, but from the old-fashioned peripheral pedectomies in 1981, and it was a very sobering experience. So why do we want to do this? Well, it's got to be better for the individual patient, and Chris made a very good comment that it's got to really be cheaper for UK Limited. So let's look at that in a bit more detail. But if you look at these publications from the proponents of bilateral surgery, then they give a number of reasons why you should do it. Fewer hospital visits. Well, maybe, but probably only really one. If you practice modern cataract surgery and you don't see your patients afterwards and they're seen in the community, then they only have one extra visit. And the Way Forward document that the college has produced proposes this, and that some places are doing this, and maybe more will in the future. So it's just one extra visit, really, and that's the operation for the second eye. What about the more rapid visual rehabilitation? Well, most of the patients that you're talking about that are going to be suitable are actually emmetropic or very mild ametropic in the other eye. Well, just do the dominant eye first in equal cataract and use ready readers. Then, there isn't a real disadvantage for those patients. For a markedly ametropic, you can always use a contact lens for the second eye, practice that beforehand. And severe hypermetropia may be the exceptional case where you would do it, and I do it in those circumstances, providing the patient is suitable and they have severe hypermetropia. But you've got to remember you've got this increased chance of inaccurate biometry, and you may be, the patient may have to live with your results. So you really need to know the results in these patients for the first eye before you proceed to the second eye. Interestingly, it reduces patient fear to have both eyes done at once. Well, here's the different definitions of fear that a patient may go through, and I'll go through this in detail. Fear of the unknown. I think everybody would agree with me that when a patient comes for their second eye on a different day, they're more relaxed. And they help relax fellow patients who are waiting for their first eye in the waiting area. Fear of pain. Well, intraoperative people fear pain intraoperatively, no doubt about that. If it's not GA, then would most be topical? Chris has given a system of using a different anaesthesia for the two patients. But patients don't like something different. There are good studies to show that, and I'm interested in whether he's done a study on his patients where they've really told him exactly what they feel. Post-operatively, as he said, you've got potential for both eyes being uncomfortable. That is no joke. And they're going to think, I'm risking both eyes today, even if they don't know all of the exact reasons for it. So if you're going to do your anaesthesia, subtenals for both eyes? No, because you just might not be able to see much. You can quite easily get very blurred vision immediately after that. So yeah, you wouldn't do that. So what about topical for both? Well, there's definitely more intraoperative pain than subtenals. Good evidence for that, and as Chris said, the second eye, the pain is worse. But this study is in second eyes done at a different date. It's not done on the same day. I wonder what the scores are on the same day. Reduced time off work. Well, our median age is 76 in this country. Not many people are doing important work at that age, unless they're ophthalmologists. My experience is that patients who work for themselves are back to work within 0 to 2 days after modern cataract surgery. Do you expect spectacle changes? Well, no, if you schedule the second eye, it doesn't mean they go back on the waiting list. You do it, I'm going to do it 4 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, 5 weeks' time, something like that. For the reasons here, they don't need 2 pairs of spectacles, they just need 1. Particularly with greater use of what I think is the most important advance in cataract surgery in the last 10 years, and that's toric lenses. So what would patients miss out on? Well, they miss out on this balancing. It's important to balance 2 carburetors in an old car. You've got to get it right, otherwise the engine doesn't work. And it's actually really important to balance your patients. And you can't do that if you're doing both at once. So what are the aims of modern cataract surgery? They are to eliminate cataract, but they're also to improve spectacle independence. You do that with your accurate biometry, particularly adjusting the second eye, with your toric lenses, with micromonovision, which is brilliant, by the way. It works fantastically well. I'm a good example of it. And maybe by multifocal implants, but we're not going to talk about that. So what about your errors in biometry? How often did this happen? Well, the best modern study is this one, which shows that in about a quarter of the cases, you're going to be out by at least half a diopter, and in 7% by more than 1 diopter. Now, can you correct that in the second eye? Some publications say no, but they're all retrospective, they're not prospective. This one is prospective, and the answer is yes, you can. Because when you adjust the second eye based upon the error in the first eye, you can get a much better result for that second eye. And it's highly significant. You're going to deny your patients of this possibility if you do both eyes at once. So knowing the results of the second eye is important for your optical correction. It's nice to know what sort of vision you're going to get afterwards, although most people do pretty well. And these complications, this story, yes, it occurs in 1.2% of patients, and there's always the unexpected major problems. We had this warning with a particular lens implant. So you're going to use different lens implants for your surgery. You're going to have IOLs from different batches. And what about wipeout? There's a poster on wipeout out there. It'd be really bad if you had that in one eye. Would they really want the second eye doing, even if they don't get a wipeout as well? So is it cheaper for the UK? Well, what can you really save on the NHS? A little bit of admin costs, maybe, that second visit to theatre, but not much when you really look at it. And has anybody done it and got proper figures for the UK? What do you risk spending more on them? Chris said it. You might not do both eyes. In fact, you might not do either eye. What percentage of people get cancelled from having surgery on one eye, never mind both eyes, if you're going to do it on a lot of patients? 3.4% in Portsmouth, back in 2012, had a cancellation on the day. 10% in Aberdeen, cancelled on the day in 2018. Poster out there. What about not doing the second eye? You're not going to do the second eye if you had a complication in the first. Well, if you look at the NOD figures, 3.2% of cataract operations had a complication in the NOD study. Well, okay, you're probably doing a slightly lower risk profile, but it's still going to be a significant number, and you're going to lose those slots on your list because you can't have reserve patients there just in case they might get done. That's not going to be acceptable to patients, is it? So is it really cheap for the UK? I'm not sure it is. What do you risk spending more on? Well, admin time, more sets of instruments, probably additional storage of disposables, and you're going to lose those slots. There's no cost-effective data as to whether it's cheaper in the UK. Until there is, I don't think we should consider it routinely. Other countries, well, if you look at it, they save about 150 to 200 pounds hospital money. Thank you. So, but the costs don't include the lost productivity, trying to do 2 and not being able to do either or just one of those. So, I think the reason, very good reasons at the moment for not doing bilateral simultaneous cataract surgery routinely, and that's what we're talking about, doing it almost routinely. It's not better for most patients, in my opinion, and it probably isn't cheaper. Until somebody's proven that it's cheaper in the UK, I'm going to be voting no. And there's a third reason, but I'm going to make you wait for that one. Thank you.
So, Chris, I'd like to welcome you back.
Well, that's wonderful. I don't need my carburetors balancing. I drive an electric car. Here's my 5-minute rebuttal. I think we have already dealt with endophthalmitis and cystoid macular edema. But look at this issue of biometry, adjusting the second eye biometry. I put it to you that the IOL master or equivalent is exceedingly precise. I also put to you that if you use a modern formula, like the Barrett Universal 2, it is also exceedingly predictive. The college recommends repeating biometry if there is any significant inter-eye difference in axial lengths or keratometry. Now, if we have two eyes which are very different, then biometric adjustments are not really applicable to these cases. And also, it doesn't really help bilateral major refractive surprise. You can only help the second eye a little bit. You can't help the first eye, it's already done. Finally, did you know that IOL manufacturing tolerance is often just half a data or even less? So what you put in is not necessarily what you get, so you might adjust wrongly too. I organized a 3.5-hour, 30-person ethical and medical legal workshop, and Professor Vernon was there. We had a number of ethicists, religious persons, lawyers, health economists, etc. And we attempted to answer some predetermined questions. So let me share some of the questions and answers with you. Autonomy, patient choice, that's really paramount, and we must not deny patients the choice of better care, if they so choose. So we must consider and offer IS-BCS. Consent, actually very difficult, almost impossible to get for unilateral surgery, let alone bilateral, but it was decided that an app may help. It is okay to do bilateral surgery, but if something should go wrong, then you will have many questions to answer, so your documentation and your discussion will be very important. We're not going to make any surgeon do anything they don't want to do. Money. Commissioners are quite willing to pay 1.95 tariff for same-day bilateral cataract surgery if you take negotiations with them. As a doctor, our responsibility is to the patients in front of us, our first duty and foremost duty, but we also have another duty to society to conserve resources. There is only a limited pot of money. Look at conservation. The rapid-fire poster prize went to Peter Thomas, and he worked out that travel and waste disposal of all the instruments are the most important factors. The Americans have worked out that with the additional traveling, if you separate the two eyes, that is more likely to kill you than both your eyes going blind. So think of the time, not just for the patients, but for the carers who have to take time off work. Other things, people might criticize that you would create two queues, but the reality is that you can do more eyes for fewer patients. It will worsen the surgical waiting list initially, but once you're over the hump, you will have a shorter waiting list. Training. There's nothing to stop trainees operating on the second eye. Indeed, senior trainees under supervision can operate on both eyes.
1 minute.
So therefore, we're not taking away the routine cases away from trainees. They can still do these cases. How safe does it have to be? Because it is already so safe and the complications are so rare, it is almost impossible to carry out an RCT, which would involve millions of patients and be just too expensive. So the conclusion at the end of the 3.5 hours was to go ahead gradually and see what happens. I won't go into this for the sake of time. The uncertainties, we do not know the true risk of bilateral endophthalmitis, but it is exceedingly rare. Remember NICE guidance. Remember Montgomery and the GMC guidance? So the conclusion is, I put it to you that there's no reason not to consider and offer same-day bilateral cataract surgery to all suitable patients, even if you do not believe in it or do not offer it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And now Steve back on the stage, please.
Well put, Chris. Some fatal flaws in some of your arguments. What I'd like you to do as an audience now is just to horizon scan a bit. We had some of that earlier on today. I just want you to imagine what could happen when news of perhaps a victory for the proponents of this gets into the media. Later on today, we could have breaking news. Royal College of Congress endorses simultaneous bilateral cataract surgery. Just imagine what that's going to do to the politicians who clearly would like to look at some way of saving money, if they really do. Of course, I still believe they don't. But this would set an irrevocable train of events into motion. And within a year, we might have headlines like this: doctors told to do both cataracts at once by NHS bosses. It could happen. Eye surgeons lose the power of decision. Very easily would be dominated by managers. And the new tariff, well, that can be changed. You know, you look at the insurers, if you do a bilateral cataract surgery, you don't get anywhere near twice the rather low payment for a single eye. It's a lot less. Button's not working. There we go. So, my concerns if this becomes the norm, or very, very common, is that we'll have a lot of pressure on us to ensure that both eyes have surgery on the same day, because it's theoretically cheaper to do it that way. There'll be pressure on people listening. Well, you really do need the other eye doing, don't you? Because that's what we do both eyes. There'll be pressure on people reviewing patients on the same day. Well, you're going to need to have your other eye done. There'll be pressure on patients to comply, which is what is becoming the norm. With pressure on theatre staff to ensure the safety of that second eye operation. And I think there is a disincentive to allow training on the first eye, certainly for the more junior surgeons, as Chris mentioned. So there will be less surgery for juniors to do. So what about the second check? Chris says you can do the whole of the second operation in 10 minutes, including all the extra checks that you have to do for the second eye. 10 minutes to do the whole thing, plus give the local anaesthetic? Nah, no chance. 10 minutes is wrong. It's a lot longer than that. It must be. Unless you have good evidence to prove to me, I don't believe it. You're going to have to run a second WHO check that's different, good for the first one and the second one as well. And everything has to be compliant. The delay on the changing. So if you look at other healthcare systems that are doing this bilateral surgery, and you see, well, let's compare the patients who have had simultaneous bilateral surgery, the patients who've had the second operation on the other day, you see all of these pre-existing problems that they're doing here. Well, Chris clearly wouldn't do this on these patients, I hope he wouldn't, but it's happening here from Kaiser Permanente in the United States. Well, for Kaiser Permanente, think the UK government. So what constitutes suitable? Well, I think we probably all agree, and I bet Chris and I would both agree, that these are reasonably good, suitable criteria. But they're all subjective. They can all be moved into yes or no. And here's the same list, but more difficult to read, because you just bent it a little, because you're being pushed to do both eyes. So people will be putting more pressure on you than you already have from above. And you'll be pulled one way or the other. Do I think about the individual patient, or do I think about trying to save money? I've got to do that second eye, haven't I? Otherwise there'll be a space on my operating list that won't be used. And that's not going to look good on me. So I believe that there are a number of reasons not to do this surgery routinely. I don't think it's better for most patients. I think we can do better doing patients individually. I really don't think it's cheaper, and until somebody has shown me that it is, in the UK, doing it all properly, then I might believe it, but I don't think it's cheaper. And I'm really worried about putting pressure on individual patients and individual NHS staff. Do you think that your managers are going to let you do cataract surgery if you are sort of conscientious objector to this? No, they're just going to stop you operating on cataracts, aren't they, and get other people who are willing to do it. That's what will happen. So I think I'd like you to think like this chap here, who's got a little bit less hair than me, not much less. I'd like to think, for your patient's sake, vote against the motion. Thank you.
So both speakers can come now and take up position at the lectern. So we now have 5 minutes where we can have a direct debate. What I'm going to suggest is that, Christopher, as you spoke first, I'm going to ask Steve to sort of have the first go on this part.
Okay, well, I'm going. Microphone's slightly louder. This 10 minutes for the second half. Really? Just expand upon that. You've got to give the patient a sub-Tenon's injection. You've got to check that everything is okay, and you've got to do the operation. Can you do that in 10 minutes?
Yeah,
reliably? Really?
Yes.
How many people can do it in 10 minutes in the audience?
Well, not everybody, obviously.
No. So does that mean that people who can't do it can't make it cost effective?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that, because, I mean, at the moment we're aiming for, the nation is aiming for 2 cases per hour. So even if it were 20 minutes or 15 minutes, it's still a saving. But this is not about saving those few minutes, you know, it's an entire picture. And I mean, I salute you for instilling fear to the audience with your talk. I think you may remember...
I'm just realistic, you know, that's not fear.
You may remember how phaco was introduced and there were phaco disasters, but people don't really talk about that anymore.
No, there were phaco disasters because people weren't taught properly. I mean, I went on a phaco course in the United States, learned how to do it, and even in my first 20 or 30 cases, I was faster than I was doing extracapsular, and I wasn't a slow extracapsular surgeon. So, I'm
very happy to teach you if you come to Brighton. And not only that, we did not contribute to NOD because we didn't have Medisoft in the data that you...
Well, your hospital is on the list of the 2018 NOD contributors. Well, that's where I got the data from the NOD report.
Okay. But,
unless it's another hospital in Brighton.
No, we're not really properly wired up for NOD.
Tell us your figures then. So, in the last year, how many patients have you done bilateral simultaneous cataract surgery on in your hospital? And how many consultants have you?
Okay, so I think, I do most of them, right. And I'd say it's about 20% of my cataract cases.
20%? Yeah. Patients for whom it's best for. But if you're only doing 20% in your population, do you think anybody's going to get more than 20%?
I think hopefully, once it's more popular, then manufacturers will put together left packs and right packs for us just to pull off the shelf.
Right, so they've been sterilised.
And the who doesn't take very long. Mostly it is ascertaining the side and the lens power because we already know the patient is that patient.
You've got to do all those other checks though, different viscoelastic, that's what's advised by...
that's done beforehand. We don't do it there and then, and we don't set up a second trolley after the first eye has been done.
I see, so you do it all in advance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there anything else then, Steve?
How long does it take you to consent your patients for this? You say you have an app, so they do it somewhere else when you're not actually there. Because I think it does take a long time to consent people properly for one eye, never mind for two, and to go through the important issues and what they might gain and what they might not gain. I think it would take quite a long time. It's certainly on the cases that I do, and I do some, it takes me much longer to consent somebody for bilateral than it takes me to consent somebody for unilateral. That's taking extra time out of the clinic.
Yes, I think if you have updated patient information booklet, which includes bilateral, then there'll be less to discuss.
But everybody has their own individual fears, that even if you have an excellent brochure, which I'm sure you do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know fear is very major here.
So people are more frightened of having two done on the same day?
No, I think the worry is that they're not frightened, but then they get frightened by somebody else and then they chicken out.
So that's my next question. How many people who initially go for it actually don't end up having their second eye done?
There will be 1 or 2 each year.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
Not more than 1 or 2?
No.
Okay.
Should we take some questions if there are
Yeah,
time?
I think that would be a good idea. There's bound to be some thoughts in the audience.
Shall we have the lights up? Oh, or shall we take the vote?
Maybe that's a good idea, because we've sort of, I think we've asked each other enough questions, and hopefully we've both presented the case for and against. And remember, we're talking about really routine here, not just 20%. It's more than 20% if you think about all the cases that could be in that definition that I put in. Yeah. But yeah, should we have a, Ms. Chairman, should we have a vote?
I think we should. There's clear agreement. So I don't know whether or not we can put that slide up that we had at the beginning back on, just to remind everybody. So particularly for people who weren't here right at the beginning. So you need to get on the internet either by the SEC Wi-Fi or your data and find a site slido.com or Google Slido. That's SLIDO. It's up on the screen now. If you then get in there, it'll ask you for an event code, and the hash should already be there. So you need to enter the event code T468. And the original question should be there again. So all suitable patients should be offered same-day bilateral cataract surgery. So if you could vote now, yes or no, and again we'll just give you maybe sort of a minute or so to do that. And let the tension mount for the two speakers. Me, you could hear a pin drop.
That's the sort of thing. You see, we're not voting. Wouldn't be fair.
I'll vote for you, Steve.
Well, I was going to vote for you.
People getting in all right, managing to find it.
Not yet. 1 minute.
Madam Chair, can we ask for the lights to be switched on?
Yeah. Can we have the lights up a little bit in the auditorium just in case people are coming? No. Oh my God, get on. All right, everyone managed?
No, not yet.
Generally finished voting?
Not yet.
Yeah, okay. In that case, so can we close the vote and can we see the results of the new vote? Okay, I'm going to have to turn around to I believe it is. Oh, I've written it down. Well, so it's exactly the same as it.
Oh my God! What a waste of time. I'm going to drink from the bottle.
Excellent. Well, in that case, I think it's fair to say we don't have a clear winner, we don't have a clear loser, but it does mean that both speakers can walk away with their head held high. Professor Vernon.
What we need to know is, it could be that lots of people have changed their minds, or that nobody's changed their mind.
Can we have the lights up again?
Is there another vote they can have to start again if you change your mind?
Code.
Can people put their hands up if they change their mind during the debate?
Okay. Wow. It doesn't matter which way.
No.
Okay. Well, amazing.
Excellent. Oh, well, on that note, thanks both to the speakers. That was a fantastic debate. Thank you to the audience.